Hi, everybody. Today, on page 22, which is lesson 10 in the Write Book, we're talking about subject-verb agreement. And if you read through page 22 and it seemed really confusing, that's okay. We're going to talk about it. It's not as confusing as it seems. Since we speak English, we know pretty much that if it doesn't sound right, then something's off in the sentence, and it's usually the subject and verb agreement. So let's take a look. Let's pick somebody to be famous, and I have picked Lincoln today. So Lincoln gets to help us and be famous. So let's say Lincoln walks to the store. And we're talking about verbs in the present tense today. Our verb is walk, and we put an S on it. Okay? Lincoln is singular, so we put an S on walk. Lincoln walks to the store. Now, if I say the kids, okay, meaning we have more than one person, because Lincoln's just one person. But when we have the kids, that means we could have 2 kids up to 1 million kids. The kids, we're going to say walk to the store. Okay, we don't put an S on. We leave the ending alone. Okay, the kids walk to the store. We wouldn't say the kids walks to the store. That wouldn't sound right. We also wouldn't say Lincoln walk to the store. It doesn't sound right either. The kids walk to the store. So that's basically what the whole lesson is about today. The thing that we need to talk about next is that oftentimes, based on the ending of the word, that changes the spelling of the verb. So we'll talk about that now. And I'm going to use my dog. We'll use my dog, Clara. Clara is, of all the dogs I've ever had, she's the naughtiest dog I've ever had. But she can be a good girl too. But she is the hardest dog I've ever had. But let's think of some sentences, and we're going to use some verbs. And we're going to write them the correct way. So if I have the verb try, okay, and I'd say, Clara to get food out of the pantry. Okay, so we didn't say Clara try to get food. We'd say Clara tries to get food out of the pantry. Try ends with a consonant Y. So when that happens, we're going to get rid of the Y. We're going to change the Y to an I and add ES. Clara tries to get food out of the pantry. Okay, Clara is singular. Now, if I say the dogs what am I going to use now? The dogs try. I'm going to use try, not tries. The dogs try to get food out of the pantry. So this is singular and this is plural. Let's try another one. Berry. We know berry ends with a consonant Y. So I can say Clara berries. Okay. I change the Y to an I and I add ES. Clara buries her bones out back. Now, if I write this differently, using the dogs as my subject, then I'm going to say the dogs bury their bones out back. I had to change the pronoun to their. Okay? The dogs bury their bones out back. So whenever we have a consonant Y, we change that Y to an I and add ES. So when we have carry, same thing. Carry becomes carries. Okay. What if I have lick? All right. Would I say Clara lick her paws? No, I would say Clara licks her paws. All right. But if we said the dogs, we'd say the dogs lick their paws. So Clara is singular, so we put an S on that verb. What about watch? Watch ends with a CH. Okay, so let's try that in a sentence. Clara blank for the mailman. Clara watches for the mailman. When we have a CH at the end, we're going to put an ES after it. So it becomes watches. Okay. The same thing with a SH, like wish, would become wishes. Also, words that end with an SS, like dress, becomes dresses. Also, words that end with an X or a Z. Okay. On your assignment, the first part says write each verb correctly to complete the sentence. Here's our sentence. Sometimes Desi what? Do we say sometimes Desi whistle? No. We're going to say sometimes Desi whistles. We're just going to put an S on that. Next, sometimes Desi fish? No, sometimes Desi what? Fishes. Okay, fish ends with SH. So we need to put an ES on the end of it. All right. If we look at 4, I'm going to let you do 3 on your own, but if we look at 4, we have study. It ends with a consonant Y. So we need to change that Y to an I and add ES. So study becomes studies. Guess becomes guesses. Cry becomes cried, and so on. So sometimes you're just putting an S on. Sometimes you're putting an ES on, and then sometimes you have to change the Y to an I and add ES. Here it says for part B, read each sentence, write the underlined verb correctly so that it agrees with the subject. So number 1, we have Grandpa fry eggs for us each morning. That does not sound right. Fry needs to be what? Fries. It's a consonant Y. So fry becomes fries for it to make sense. 2, Lang never missed the bus. That's not right. Now miss, the verb, ends with SS. So that tells me we need to add an ES to it. So miss is going to become misses. Three, the cereal crunch in my mouth. Well, crunch ends with a CH. And if I check down here on the ruler, I know that if it ends with CH, I've got to add ES to it. So crunch is going to become what? Crunches. The cereal crunches in my mouth. Number 4, they finish their chores quickly each day. Do we need to do anything to that one, or does it sound right the way it is? They finish their chores quickly each day. It's just fine the way it is. Okay. 5, Elena mix the cake batter. Well, we know we have an X at the end of mix. So mix is going to become mixes. Okay, mixes. And then the sentence makes sense. Elena mixes the cake batter. On part C, you need to read the paragraph and write each underlined verb correctly so that it agrees with the subject. Now, these are all present tense. So you're going to be changing this by putting an S on it, an ES, changing the Y to an I and adding ES, or no change at all if it already makes sense. So to the verb, remember, you have to decide whether you're going to put an S at the end. Are you going to put an ES at the end? Are you going to change the Y to an I and add ES? Or is there no change at all? So that's the trick that you need to think about today as you're doing your assignments. Okay? So I hope that helps. Look at the ruler down here if you're confused. And you don't need to do this orange right section in your notebook today. Okay, so you don't need to do that unless you want to. It's a choice. All right. I will talk to you later. Bye.